School sucks. And it sucks because over the past 30 years, we've seen a rapid development of digital technologies that have accelerated the rate at which humans communicate. This acceleration has been the result of a widespread adoption of social media, which is described in this video as digital communication platforms. Humans use digital communication platforms to host content as various types in content channels and as content tokens. The problem is that the current study of content creation separates the instruction of each content type into its own curriculum. This antiquated approach to the study of communication arts demands a new analysis that takes into consideration digital communications platforms' ability to host multiple types of content and content tokens on various content channels. Hello, my name is Javier Cobas and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is a project that I've been working on for the past semester as part of my master's degree in global strategic communications at Florida International University. And the main reason that I am even making this video is because I feel school sucks. And the reason it sucks is because we are not teaching kids how to communicate effectively. Okay, Javi, you sound like a nut job. Get to the point. Start listing all the facts so that you can start sounding less like a nut job. Yes, okay. And there's going to be moments in this presentation where I'm just going to write what I wrote because I think it does an eloquent job of just containing what I'm saying. So it feels cliched to mention the fact that I'm a member of Gen Z because it is usually mentioned to argue in favor of the idea that our generation understands the internet better than other generations. While I do believe this to be the case, I think it is most important to mention because it provides historical context to my perspective. I experienced the modern evolution of human communication since I was born in 1996 and was in the first waves of internet adoption. The first time I remember communicating via the internet was sometime between 1999 and 2001. My father initiated a voice call with my older sister using his desktop computer that was connected to the internet via dial-up. This is mind-blowing stuff. I did not understand the implications of this. I remember him making a big deal about it and me just thinking to myself, it was just a new type of phone. My deep investment in communication stems from my early experiences with these emerging technologies as a result of my father having a profession in video production. These experiences definitely contributed to the formation of my digital literacy level by exposing me to the frameworks and technologies required to produce quality video content. This was useful to my comprehension of the ontology of content because producing video content requires an understanding of the theoretical frameworks of other types of content like audio, text, and still images. So I think we should break that down a bit because what I'm saying is since I grew up making videos and I understood, okay, write a script, how to record voiceovers, these content, video, audio, text, and still images, these are 4 content types that can all be used to communicate, but school only focuses on text. Let's rewind a bit, guys, and go back to the earliest education of communication, right? Because we have to understand where the study of communication began. So the origins of human communication trace back to as early as 3000 BC. Aristotle's theory of communication centered on rhetoric and said its goal was to either persuade another human of an idea or find consensus with them on a topic. Aristotle listed 3 principles of rhetoric which also apply to other types of communication. Truth is mostly unattainable, arguments must adapt to the audience, and that rhetoric is merely a tool. When Aristotle first explored the idea of communication, the platforms that existed could only host content as still images, handwritings, or spoken word legends. New digital communication platforms that have emerged in the last 30 years have facilitated capabilities to communicate with each other in multiple types of content and have produced new types of content tokens that are hosted on new content channels. Is that Aristotle, right, created the study of communications with rhetoric because the only tool that was available to them were like talking to each other. Remembering Aristotle's 3rd principle is important here because the medium is just a tool. Digital communication platforms are tools which host, aid in the production of, and facilitate the consumption of content types and content tokens. More precisely, digital communication platforms are technologies of distribution and content consumption which enable communication over spatio-temporal distances and across generations. Human communication's rapid development over the last 30 years is directly connected to the emergence of digital communication platforms. So at the very least, if it hasn't completely failed, academia hasn't completely failed, we are at least, I want to say at least 10 years behind at this point. It is only now that this becomes so urgent because it's intertwined with the foundation of our reality and of how humans communicate and how society functions, that it is only now that you have people here so passionate about this. Because right now, it is already the case that kids don't want to go to college. Let's continue. The evolution of the digital worker, right? Because you guys want facts. So here, let's go back to the facts. George Lukács was a Marxist philosopher who wrote about society and capitalism in his book Ontology of a Social Being. His work is mainly concerned with the relationship between work and culture, but also gives attention to communication and language. Prior scholars write that this makes the book's concepts noteworthy from a media and communications perspective. Lukács defines work as the relationship of interchange between humans and either natural or inorganic materials such as tools, raw materials, or objects of labor. His idea of work is not just a process between humans and nature, but one between humans, nature, and culture in which humans create, with the help of technologies, physical, social, and informational use values out of natural or inorganic materials. Sound familiar? Like, this is literally what content creation is. The creation of digital content results in social and informational use values produced from inorganic materials because of scientific and technological progress in the form of digital communication platforms and the technologies that facilitate them. Is a video organic? No. Okay, so it's inorganic. Video, audio, text, still images. Producing these things, these inorganic materials, and using inorganic materials like tools, camera, microphone, computer, all these things. All this comes up and to cite someone. Common perspectives are that being digitally literate gives graduates a competitive edge when entering today's highly competitive job markets. A need for this has been evident for over 50 years, as written extensively on by communications philosopher Marshall McLuhan. McLuhan argued that the fixed linear nature of text content tokens affected the way humans thought about their disciplines and about the meaning of humanness. The recent introduction of television, he argued, would restore a sense of community and solidarity that had been lost to literacy after the birth of the printing press. We've been talking about this for 50 years. Why is academia refusing to acknowledge it? Make a class. Dean, listen, I don't know which dean you are, which one you're listening to, which school you're from. I'm talking to you. You listened to me this far. There must be some reason that someone recommended this to you, some reason you clicked on this to begin with. We're crossing the Rubicon, the point of no return. People will stop going to school if at least, content creators will stop going to school. And it's like, it's either we adopt it or these literally content courses that exist online are going to become the mainstream. Maybe if you guys don't want to listen to me, that's just what happens, guys. That's just what happens. Like, it's literally like McLuhan had prophetic analyses of media technologies' effect on society, which dismayed professional media scholars. Look, what did I just say? Literally, I told you guys. Click away if you don't want to hear about it. Essentially, McLuhan was focused on the concept of literacy regardless of the content type, where a movie and a book can contain the same definition content. Look, he talked about it 50 years ago, so you can't just tell me that that this is something new. The problem is that academia never grasped it back then to the level of that he was grasping it, because humans weren't able to communicate how we're able to communicate now. They weren't able to do that back then. How this is being shared, bing bang boop, cell phone, audio, podcast, AirPods, however you're listening to it, this wasn't available. The emergence of digital communication platforms have opened up the possibility for all humans to engage online, but still content creation is only taken up by a minority of internet users. I wonder if it's because we don't teach these kids how to. Businesses are aware that creating entertainment content tokens is challenging because it requires time and inspiration, ultimately demanding workers who can help them communicate their brand's culture effectively, which is precisely why digital literacy and digital fluency must be taught to students at one point in their academic career, or at the minimum as a requisite for communication majors. And thank you again if you're still listening up to this point. Really, the best thing that you can do is drop a like, you can drop a subscribe, because I am not backed by this. Literally, I'm in debt to provide you this. So drop a like, drop a subscribe, and we'll keep going. Presently, digital communication platforms facilitate human communication by hosting content types and content tokens. However, since antiquated platforms like print, radio, and television only hosted one content type at a time, academia has the education of content creation divided into curricula for each content type. This ensures that students will be thoroughly instructed on a specific content type's theoretical framework, and that educators can provide clear avenues for students to pursue careers in their content type's respective industry. However, digital communication platforms have transformed each respective content token's industry and raised the expectations of every graduate entering the job market. Therefore, there is an apparent necessity for academia to alter its approach to content creation and the ontology of content. In addition, academia has yet to sufficiently prepare graduates for the job market because it lacks the ability to accurately measure a student's digital literacy level, and this is what I'm getting to. Graduates entering the job market must understand the theoretical frameworks of each content type because digital communication platforms can host multiple content types and types of content tokens. Therefore, the study of communication needs to embrace the concept of platforms which can host multiple content types and content token types. Since humans have adopted the use of digital communication platforms as a principal means of communication, what must educators do to provide students the proper theoretical framework they need for careers in a job market which now rewards being digitally literate? And secondly, how can academia better organize content tokens, and what does this change in ontology of content mean in practice? What do educators have to provide to students? A test which measures their digital literacy. How can we measure digital literacy? If we can agree on an ontological organization of content, which is already theoretically backed by McLuhan, we can adopt the exam that I'm about to propose. Then we can agree on a course that I propose is a requirement for, at the very least, communication graduates. That's a mouthful. Let's get into the ontology of content. Due to the fact that there's little writing in academia on this level of ontological specificity regarding content, I have formalized the type-token relationship between content types and content tokens and their role in the structure of digital communications platforms' content channels. I know, guys, and this is why it literally has been ignored because it's boring. There are 4 types of content: video, audio, text, and still images. It used to be the case that in order to consume content types, you needed to use the respective platform. But since digital communication platforms can host multiple content types, new content channels had to be developed to host specific types of content tokens. Content tokens have always existed, but there was never a reason to organize them by something other than their type of content. This lack of an accepted supposition towards an ontological structure of content which can take into account digital communication platforms' ability to host multiple content types and types of content tokens is the main issue in the current study of communication. Bearing that in mind, I propose that content tokens can only exist in 3 types: macro content, micro content, and mini content. As it stands right now, how long it takes to consume a content token is what decides what type of content token it is. Mini content can be consumed in less than 5 minutes. Micro content can take anywhere between 5 and 30 minutes. Macro content takes longer than 60 minutes to be consumed. To illustrate this concept, I will match each ontological term to its matching real-life counterpart, starting with Instagram as a digital communication platform. Inside Instagram, users can post to and consume content primarily from stories, the feed, Reels, and Instagram TV. Each of these are Instagram's content channels that host specific types of content tokens for humans to consume. Instagram originally only had one content channel, the feed, and was solely used to post and consume still imagery. Later, improvements in data storage and an increase in bandwidth also allowed Instagram to evolve and host more than just one content type and type of content token. It was only natural for Instagram's feed to incorporate video posts, since the success of Vine proved that people were willing to consume at least 6-second videos on their mobile devices. Stories introduced a content channel that is consumed differently than Instagram's feed. More recently, the introduction of Instagram TV is displaying Instagram's intent to become the ultimate digital communication platform. While regular users can only host videos that are up to 10 minutes long, verified users get a 60-minute limit, which means that Instagram can host every content type and type of content token. VATs, and that's why I call it VATs. Descartes, you talked about it first, and this is why I named it VATs and why you read it as VATs. This is the simulation we're creating for each other, and this is how we're creating it for each other, using these content types: VATs, video, audio, text, and still images. Instagram, you can literally host video, audio, text, and still images. It's literally print, radio, and television all in one. Not just that, when Instagram saw the introduction of these new content channels, it evolved itself. It didn't just stay the same. So Javi, why? Why is it so important? Well, don't just take it from me that this is important. Bill Gates in 1996 expressed the belief that broader opportunities exist for most businesses through the supplying of information or entertainment, and that no business is too small to participate. This accurately depicts the landscape of digital communication platforms in 2020 because businesses are using digital communication platforms like Instagram to supply consumers with information and entertainment in the form of content tokens, reels, stories, feed posts, IGTV, and if we want to go outside Instagram, TikToks, Facebook posts, Facebook video posts, Facebook still image posts, Pinterest posts, Pinterest video posts. Before digital communication platforms, businesses had to spend money on the production and distribution of advertisements in order to communicate with their consumers. It wasn't like a business could just go to a TV station and be like, play my video. But now it makes sense for businesses to post on Instagram because it's easy and they can communicate and build a brand, because we've already talked about the foundation of building a brand and building something in society over spatio-temporal distances. This is what digital communications is allowing for. So businesses didn't have a choice back then on spending a lot of money on advertisement, because it was the only way that print, radio, and television really allowed individuals, or at least businesses, to communicate with its consumers. But since text communication has been the main content type that academia has used, literacy and fluency tests have always measured a person's ability to comprehend and communicate ideas via text content. And another thing that is important to note here, there was never a reason to organize content tokens by anything other than video, audio, or text, or still images. Now we've gotten to the point where the content can exist in these macro books, movies, right? I have a table here. This is macro content, so this would fall into a video podcast if I really wanted to bore you guys and have it be longer than an hour. But this is more akin to something like a vlog, right? Or a TV show episode. Right now, we're just talking about the breakdown of types of content tokens and how they are similar to each other. But this is probably just like section 1 or section 2 out of maybe 2 or 3 sections for digital literacy. So the questions for my test, because I have to cut myself off before I continue going down this rabbit hole: which of the following content tokens do you find most similar to content token of a specific content token type and a different content type than the answer pool? So basically what I was saying was like, which of these video types do you find most similar to a song? And the answer for that would have been a music video, a vlog, and a TV episode, because those 3 are micro contents. All I did was post it on Instagram, my Instagram stories, Twitter, and like every day I would repost the same Instagram story, I think like once a day or once every 2 days, just casually. I didn't want to overload people with it. I'm copying this structure off literacy itself, the way that the US government structures literacy for when they do their tests for the military and what foreigners take for English. So this is like what I'm basing this rubric off, not the point scoring or the test, but more so the rubric. But the complete breakdown of scores actually reveals a disproportionate number of participants who believe to be more digitally literate than they actually are. And again, because my test is a work in progress, I've acknowledged this. I'm not saying this is a perfect test. So if you want to attack the validity of my test, provide me a better test or provide me critiques to help. You can't just trash this test. You have to provide me something better. digitalliteracy.mrkobus.com. This is tantamount. digitalliteracy.mrkobus.com. Like and subscribe and share this with a family member, someone that needs to hear how academia is literally failing content creators around the world. The people that took this exam took it after being told to do so via a digital communication platform. So of course they had to have at least elementary, but none of them could imagine, oh, I just barely understand this. People are posting to their stories, saving it and posting it somewhere else. You can tell when they're not fluent because you can see it's like having an accent. You can tell when your grandpa is posting on Instagram and you're like, yeah, grandpa, like, I love you and I'm gonna throw the like. Again, it's how they can use it to communicate, and that's also part of it. But the population makeup of my test, this is only the people who had an accurate sense of their digital literacy level. And you look at this makeup, you could see very clear as day. Gen X is 14.3, Gen Y has a better understanding. And again, this is a preliminary test that measures one aspect of digital literacy that I can clearly see is being able to understand how different content tokens of different content types are similar to other content tokens of different content types because they're related in the type of content token: macro, micro, and mini. But there needs to be a 15-week course. Both of them is what I want, but fluency is later. Literacy would be structured 15 weeks as a standard college semester. 1 week to intro, 1 week in the middle for midterms, 1 week at the end for finals. That leaves us with 12 workable weeks. So week 1 is the intro, and that week we'd break down the ontology of content and break down how content channels interact with each other. We wouldn't be assigning readings every week, we'd be assigning content tokens. And then depending on the certain week and the certain quarter, the type of content token that you would submit would be different depending on the type of content that we're going over that quarter. So the idea of first being able to communicate the research via text, then being able to do it on a PowerPoint and present it. Now you have a voiceover at the end of quarter 3 with the audio section. And now the last step is to turn that into a video. And the last week would be playing the video in class for everyone to watch. Since the current study of communication separates the instruction of each content type into its own curriculum for content creation, the approach demands an immediate reanalysis which takes into consideration what I just described, because now people can communicate in all these different types. It just makes sense for humans to communicate now via those things, and that's why, since it makes sense, that's why we do it. But even though it makes sense and we do it, academia has not acknowledged it. And before I just go off and on and on and on and on, because I'm so passionate about this, thank you so much for tuning until the end of my presentation. If you have any more comments, concerns, mrkobus.com, javierkobus.com, Mr. Kobus on all platforms. I guess the last 20 seconds will just be abruptly cut off, but these are the other videos that the algorithm thinks that you should watch. Subscribe, like, I've said it a couple times. Yep. Peace out.